A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of the Can We Please Talk podcast. As always, I'm Mike Leon.
And I'm Nick Zaveri.
On the program today, helping us break down what the president just said there, the United States launching an attack on Iran, is our buddy, friend of the show. He's the host of the popular podcast This Week Explained, former lead ISR coordinator for the U.S. Army, Kervin Aucoin. Kervin, good to see you, my man.
It's so good to be on again. Thanks a lot for hitting me up. Yeah. Didn't have anything else going on today, right? On a Sunday. Oh, yeah. Whoops.
That's right. That's right. I mean, there's so much going on with this story. And, you know, I thought of you and I didn't want to text you in the overnight because the president's words obviously played here domestically, 10 p.m. You are out in Germany, obviously. And so just first high level in terms of what he just said there. And he also posted this on Truth Social. For people watching us on YouTube, you can see the Truth Social tweet here, or whatever they call it, a truth bomb, which is, by the way, ironic in and of itself. But it says here about this payload of bombs that were dropped in Iran, the 3 nuclear sites. What can you tell us a little bit more about? Because you posted this on your Instagram account in terms of the strike itself and what it hit. Let's go into what this actually hit and what this actually accomplished per the president's words.
Right. So as everybody, I'm sure knows, Israel's been attacking Iran because they've had intelligence that Iran is within weeks or even a couple of months, or I should say a couple of months or even a few weeks from building a nuclear weapon or having at least one nuclear bomb. And they want to stop that. Well, Israel does not have the capability of striking all of the Iranian nuclear sites. And so that's what all the talk was about over the last few weeks was, is the U.S. going to get involved and what does that look like? And I went on NCD and I talked about this. It's going to look like the U.S. is using their bunker buster bombs. They're very large, tens of thousands of pound bombs to hit these sites. And why is that? Because these are heavily fortified secret sites for Iran that are underground, far underground, and they need a certain type of weapon in order to penetrate them. Israel doesn't have that. Netanyahu was on the phone with Trump day in and day out, asking the United States to get involved. And so they decided, overnight, I guess early morning, it was about 3 a.m. my time when I woke up and saw what was actually happening. And it was these U.S. bombers. And interestingly enough, is the use of open source intelligence on places like platforms like Twitter, now called X, that were kind of part of this, or unwittingly part of this distraction. Because early on, these bombers had put their radars on, and they were going west towards Guam, and everybody was questioning, are we pushing out to do something with China? Is there going to be a move into Taiwan? And what we found out was that was all part of a deflection, as those assets were actually moving east into the Middle East. And unlike staging the assets, as we typically do, we'll fly them over, stage them, maybe on an aircraft carrier. They flew the entire mission from the United States over Iran. Funny enough, if you watch the new Top Gun, Maverick, it's a very similar situation within that movie. That was the whole plan of taking these flights in and trying to destroy these secret sites. And so President Trump, as he always is, very Trumpian of him, makes this announcement, a few days before, saying it's going to be 2 weeks. So we're doing a lot of this, deflection and distraction from the Iranian regime. And this is where we stand today. The United States has launched missiles into Iran. It was only one set of strikes. I said one sortie is what we would call them, which is a flight. So one sortie with multiple bombs penetrating. What's going to take a few hours, maybe some days, to see the satellite footage to see what actually were the repercussions of this. We'll do battle damage assessment, and we'll see where we are in the coming days.
Kervin, did we just declare, or did the United States just declare war on Iran?
I would say no, and here's why. So this all falls under the global war on terrorism. Iran is the largest state sponsor of terrorism. When I was in Iraq, that is who we fought against. Iranian terrorists. That's who created the IEDs in Iraq and became more sophisticated in what they were doing. So I know a lot of Congress is talking about they did not approve this mission. Since 9/11, 2001, the president has been given some power, and Bush, Obama, and even Biden has used this power to strike certain areas because of the global war on terrorism. A few weeks ago, there were bombings in Somalia to kill, Al-Shabaab and people with the ones in Somalia within Africa. No talk about, anybody against any of that, but this is a high profile, and it is, helping Israel, right? And so that, along with it, brings a lot of media coverage, and it brings a lot of really opposing people coming at heads, even people within the Trump administration.
Kervin, I did want to ask you something, because the last time we had you on the program, we were talking about Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation, if you recall. And we were talking about, national intelligence. This is something she hasn't done. It wasn't in her purview, gathering all the intelligence from all these agencies and giving the president his daily briefings. And now she's come a little bit under fire, I would say, in terms of the relationship, because the back and forth has been what she said in March in front of Congress of 2025, saying that we don't assess that Iran has reached these capabilities yet. Kind of a two-parter here. What do you make of the dynamic of the Office of the DNI telling the President of the United States, or at least telling the congressional body, we don't assess this? And now here we are, short under 3 months later, the president sitting in the sit room ordering this strike on Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities, like he just said. Is there something lost here? Like, what do you make of the assessment that she said back in March and now leading to the strikes that happen here?
Yeah, so I think two things are at play here. One is, one assessment from the intelligence community doesn't mean that the entire intelligence community assesses that. We've seen that over time. This is what got us in trouble for 9/11. If we bring back 9/11 of 2001, it is multiple individuals within the intelligence community making assessments, not communicating those assessments to the top, and that getting there. Now, the other thing is that maybe in March, the U.S. intelligence did consider Iran as not being nuclear capable for 2, 3, maybe 5 years. There has been new intelligence that has come to light, not publicly, but from within Israel. That intelligence was passed from our counterparts in Israel to the American intelligence community, and what it has said is that Iran has ramped up their enrichment of uranium, and they are on the cusp of creating that weapon, or actually getting one missile. And it's just one missile can cause devastation throughout all of Israel. So, what is true here? What it was not true here? We're going to have to let the dust settle, let the fog of war kind of dissipate, and figure out what happened.
Kervin, other than Israeli intelligence, was there any other data points that the Trump administration had used to consider whether Iran was this close to developing a nuclear weapon?
Absolutely. And it's what made me realize that Israel was about to attack Iran. And it was that a few days before, the IAEA, which that's the agency for nuclear procurement for uranium, and they've been in Iran, and they've been trying to track and see what Iran is doing. and they put out a message that Iran has not been following, the sanctions put on them in order to not develop uranium, and they have not allowed these IAEA individuals into those secret sites. Fodor, the Natanz, all the ones that were hit. Those individuals were not allowed into those facilities, and they were under the impression that Iran was ramping up their nuclear procurement.
This episode of Can We Please Talk is presented by our friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Delicious tasting coffee since 2009. They've been our proud sponsor. You see the promo code there. Look at this. They sent me this beautiful kit right here. Listen to that. Listen to that seal coming out, right? What's in it? Environmentally safe, compostable K-Pods. I love the dark Mexican blend. You can go to their website right now, take the quiz. That quiz is going to put you with a flavor profile. Listen to that sound of the coffee that you're going to be matched up with. Go to freshroastedcoffee.com. Click the link right now in our show notes. You can see it right there. Click that link. It's going to take you to the site. When you get to checkout, use our promo code, Can We Please Get 20? All one word, Can We Please Get 20, 20. You're going to get 20% off your first purchase. Head to freshroastedcoffee.com, our official sponsor of the Can We Please Talk podcast. Let me stay on that for a second, Kervin, because you're the military guy here who we're leaning on and we're trusting on. I've seen a lot of, and I wouldn't call it people that are supporting Iran. They're pointing out hypocritical things of something you just mentioned, right? And you know where I'm kind of going with this, right? And for IAEA, for people that don't know what the acronym stands for, it's the International Atomic Energy Agency, right? So there's a lot of people that are making this argument about, Bibi Netanyahu for 30 plus years has been saying Iran is close and close and close to having this capabilities. And then obviously we've come to this culmination point. They're not close, whether or not it's been assessed or not. Now we know there's been an attack on their enrichment facilities. But there's talk about the non-proliferation treaty, that Iran is a signatory part of that, which means they require the inspection of these things. Israel's not, right? Israel has over, I believe it was like 70 or so nuclear weapons, 70 to 100 potentially. Iran has none. So a lot of people are making this argument about, well, wait a minute, hold on. This is the country we're attacking, and they're not this big of a threat. And we've even seen this, as Nick and I talk about in our next segment with Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz in their conversation. I don't want you to get into the political dynamic of it. I would love, unless you want to, but I would love for you to get into the apples to apples, oranges to oranges comparison here of like, you just mentioned when we fought, we were fighting against Iran and this state-sponsored terror. But here's this state sponsor of terror allowing the international agencies to do their work and to inspect them, whereas the ally of ours is carte blanche. What do you make of that dynamic?
Yeah, I get it. It sounds very hypocritical, especially coming from the United States. Who gets nuclear weapons? Who gets to have them? China's got nuclear weapons. The United States allowed North Korea to procure nuclear weapons because they didn't do enough, and I thought that was wrong. I can tell you that at each country within the Middle East, so the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, even Egypt, they do not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. An Iran with a nuclear weapon, with the Ayatollah Khomeini as their leader at this point, that is very dangerous, not just to Israel, not even just to Saudi Arabia and Jordan, but Europe, the United States. Listen, Khomeini goes on TV day in and day out, and he calls the United States the Great Satan, much because probably the things that the United States has done in the Middle East, but he has called for the death to Israel. He does not think Israel should exist, and he has called for the death of the United States. And I think this is a personal one for President Trump because they were part of assassination attempts on him during this previous election. Now, there wasn't the one that we saw in Pennsylvania, but intelligence that was released stated that Iran had sleeper cells within the United States ready to assassinate Donald Trump before he could take the presidency. Many of those were caught by the FBI. So, like I said, I think this is personal for President Trump because he has been pointed out and fingers pointed at him from Iran. Once again, yeah, it's hypocritical We have a wild card out in North Korea that has nuclear weapons, but two wrongs don't make a right, and two rights, just because we allowed North Korea to have their weapon doesn't mean we should allow another wild card in the world to have nuclear weapons. Look, I am the person who thinks that we should do away with all nuclear weapons. No one should have that amount of power. It is also a weapon of deterrence. That's why we're not going into Russia and fighting boots on the ground in Ukraine, because of that fear of nuclear weapons being used by Russia. So there's a lot at play here. There's a lot of nuance. And I don't think it's black and white. I don't think you can say, yeah, we're doing the right thing. Yeah, we're doing the wrong thing. History is going to say, who was right and wrong in all of this.
Kervin, on the topic of sleeper cells, obviously with what has just transpired in Iran and now the continued perception of our, not even perception, our involvement at this point directly, should we as citizens be now concerned that those sleeper cells who intelligence is telling us we're targeting the president may potentially be targeting almost any American?
Yeah, I think so. I think we should always be worried about that. It shouldn't rule our day and lives, and we should think about it every day, 24/7. But this has been happening since I was in the military, right? It was always a concern that sleeper cells, Al Qaeda sleeper cells, Iranian sleeper cells are in the United States, and at a moment's notice, they can be called and be told to do something and cause mass chaos. And there are a few times that they have been able to do this. Now, the FBI is doing a fantastic job, or at least FBI's intelligence directorate has been doing a fantastic job, especially on the Iranian front, of identifying these sleeper cells and capturing these individuals. We don't hear about it every day, but it is happening. Now, as of right now, with word coming out of Iran, I'm not so much worried about U.S. assets right now, because Iran is completely focused on Israel. I think they are worried that if they do something to the United States, whether it's a military base in the Middle East or got a ship in the Middle East, that the United States will take the gloves off, and Iran will not exist anymore in the way that we know it. And so the way Iran is kind of framing this is they have a right to retaliate, and they're going to retaliate against the United States by hitting the United States' greatest ally, and that's Israel.
So this is a very broad question, but the one thing I've learned about doing this podcast and doing the TV hits like all three of us have done is that there's a chance and a potential for somebody to see it, somebody that's more important than the three of us, let's be honest. If you were advising the president now on this next move and what to do here, because you talked about it in your recent episode, before this actually happened, you released something talking about the strikes and Israel's preeminent strike on all this. Now we see where we are in this position, and we see what the president posted on Truth Social, kind of this oxymoron of a paragraph saying this is an attack and also time for peace, which I didn't understand. So how would you advise the president right now from a military perspective? What's the plan here next? Because to the surface, and a lot of MAGA folks are starting to come over this way, this looks like a war. This looks like we just started potentially World War III, and now Iran and its proxies will start to group up and start to figure out how to attack America back. So what would Kervin be advising the president on in terms of this?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd say tone down the rhetoric. Stop posting on social media. Now, he's not going to listen to me when I say that. But articulate better to the American people what we are actually doing. I think this is especially where not just President Trump and MAGA, but Republicans have a very difficult time articulating why it is important what they're doing. Usually they'll just go straight to their base and talk just to the base and kind of inflame the rhetoric. So tone down, articulate to the American people why this was important, and that this is not an act of war. We are not trying to get into a war. This was something that we had to do. This would be what I'm telling President Trump to say. This is something that we had to do as the United States, because Iran's threat to the homeland with national security was far advanced what it was before he took office or before Israel struck. Those are the kind of things that he should say, and then calm the people of the United States that we are not looking to exacerbate the situation. We're not looking to increase strikes on Iran. We want to talk to the Iranian people. We are not at war with the Iranian people. We're not even in conflict with the Iranian people. And it might get into a little bit of people thinking this is a regime change, which I'm also against, because the United States has not been very good at regime change, especially in the Middle East over the last 2 decades. But to say to the Iranian people, we are not in conflict with you. We are in conflict with your leadership, who has decided unilaterally to use nuclear power to create a weapon. And that makes it very dangerous to the rest of the world.
Go check out new episodes of This Week Explained, where Kervin breaks down everything that's happening out there in the region. Kervin, I can't thank you enough for hopping on the program with us, giving us a couple of minutes here. Continued success. Please stay safe, buddy.
Thanks a lot. Text me anytime.